everybody, I'm Jammer here today with my video review of ARMS for Nintendo Switch. This is Nintendo's newest big IP to follow Splatoon, so this game had some big shoes to fill. At first inspection, ARMS looks like an expanded version of Wii Boxing. However, there is a lot more depth and strategy involved, making this game feel very unlike its Wii Sport counterpart. This added complexity truly adds to the experience, giving this title the potential to even become an eSport someday. ARMS is a multiplayer-focused game for primarily online but offline as well. You and an opponent are placed in an arena to duke it out to be the last man standing or compete in a variety of minigames. The game's primary control scheme has you using the Joy-Con in a thumbs-up position and using motion controls to throw your punches. If you tilt the Joy-Con after throwing a punch, you can actually curve the arc within the game. I found that the controls here to be surprisingly precise. That was one of my biggest concerns when coming to this title. As many who have played motion control games before know, often your inputs don't always register the way you want them to. However, with ARMS, I never found myself attempting to input one action and the game not responding accordingly. The motion controls feel nearly one-to-one and work fantastic in this game. I encourage all who get it to at least try out the motion controls, but for those who aren't a fan of them in general, there is an option to use button controls instead. Each control scheme have their pros and cons, but it comes down to the player and whatever they're more comfortable using. I'd love to see an update later down the road that lets you map certain actions to specific buttons, like how Smash Bros. Does. Because at least for me when using motion controls, I like to have guard mapped to ZL rather than tilting the Joy-Con inward. Sometimes I feel like my guard comes up a little too late, but that could be just a delay of the physical motion of my wrists, rather than input delay on the game's behalf. ARMS has a variety of different modes. In Party Match, you are thrown in a lobby with up to 10 players where you're randomly assigned opponents and different modes to play. Before I get into the modes, I first have to compliment the online infrastructure. I love the idea of the lobby system and how you can even see matches play out live in their own little bubbles. It's very sleek and an innovative system that I hope Nintendo can incorporate into future games. Anyways, like I previously mentioned, the main mode is Versus. ARMS feels designed primarily for one-on-one, considering it is the most fun, but there is an option for 3 and 4 player free-for-alls. It can get a bit chaotic, but it works as it stands. In 3-player free-for-all, I mean it's a good time when all the players are engaged in the fight. However, online I'd see players hide away, let the other two duke it out until one is standing, then swoop in and take the win with full HP. Perhaps the objective of that mode, if it was changed to whoever does the most damage wins, it would make it more compelling when playing with 3 players, but fortunately, the free-for-all with 3 does not come all up that too frequently. Instead, the alternative 3-player mode that does come up more often is Versus Headlock. You team up with 2 other players to take on one big boss with 6 arms and varying levels of difficulty. I found this mode to be a ton of fun, working together as a team to tackle a common objective. This mode can get pretty intense if you lose one of your teammates. It's nearly impossible to recover from. This is much better than the free-for-all when playing with 3 players, by far. Another mode is 2v2 Tether. You and a partner take on a team of 2, but the trick is you are tethered to your partner by a wire. So wherever your partner goes, you have to stay close with them, and you have to balance that throughout your match. This is still true even when they are thrown, so it's very crucial to work together with your partner. This is easily one of my favorite modes, and it's such a unique twist on doubles. You can string combos together, and even if it's 2v1, I've made surprisingly good amount of comebacks. It isn't over until it's over. So those are the main game modes of ARMS, however there are mini games that are thrown into Party Match to mix up the gameplay. These are typically shorter and the goal isn't directly about fighting your opponent. In V-Ball, you and a partner hit a beach ball over a volleyball net and keep it in the air by punching with your arms. This mode can also be played one-on-one as well, but I found teams to be more fun. If you keep your rally going on too long, the ball will pop, drop to the floor, and explode, giving the other team or your team the immediate point. This is the only minigame that I sometimes wish there was a little more time in the round. Next is Skillshot, another minigame that can be either one-on-one or 2v2. Here, you and your opponents are on opposite sides of a shooting gallery, and the objective is to hit as many targets as you can. If you punch all the way across, you may even hit your opponents too for some extra points. I swear this mode is luck-based. I'm sure there's skill involved, but maybe I just have no idea what's going on. Often opponents will be up by a ridiculous amount of points, or somehow the opposite is true, and I have no idea how it happened. Fortunately, this mode is pretty quick, so you're back into the main action in the game pretty soon. The The final minigame is Hoops, a one-on-one mode where it's all about grabbing to dunk your opponents in a basketball net. Like the rest of these minigames, I'm glad they're here to add a bit of diversity to the game and to mix up the gameplay, but they're not the main draw of the game. As far as I see it, they're just a way to freshen up the gameplay so it doesn't get too dull. You can play all above mentioned modes in an offline versus as well. Here you can practice against CPUs or other human players in the room. Versus Headlock is not available in this for some reason, but maybe we could see that in an update later down the road. You can also play with the settings and change the time limit for the mode, whether you're playing a 2-on-2 or 1-on-1, so like team matches, but it's interesting that you can't actually change the amount of point value to win each round. Like for example, if you wanted to play a V-ball match with unlimited time, but instead in first to 5 you want it to be first to 10, that's unable to do here. I mean, even in the settings, there are like options, or at least like placeholders to where HP can be changed around, the rush gauge and stuff like that. But for some reason, they're all grayed out and there's really no way to toggle those settings. Perhaps again, it's another feature they plan to implement later down the road, but it is still pretty limiting. I mean, obviously it's not the end of the world and not the worst thing ever, but it would be really nice to have the freedom to be able to change up the settings more in local play. If you're feeling a bit competitive, you can try your luck in ranked matches. Here it is one-on-one with no items or hazards, all skill. To even unlock this mode, you need to beat Grand Prix at level 4 or higher, so the players in this mode should be pretty competent at this game. The game searches for an opponent while you can play other modes, but in my experience, I would usually just get connected immediately. This is a lot of fun, but personally I enjoy Party Match better. I just like the appeal of the variety of different game modes and playing with other players. Grand Prix is an offline mode that you can play either solo or with another player. Here you go through 10 matches and win your way to the top. The CPUs in this mode actually stand a pretty good challenge, especially at higher difficulty levels. It's fun for what it is, but it's very basic. After a few runs through, I grew kinda bored of it. It's not a huge detriment since the main focus of this game is the multiplayer, but I would have loved to see the single player expanded a bit more for players who do value that experience. The final mode is called Get Arms. Here you spend the coins you earn in all above mentioned modes to play a shooting gallery minigame where the objective is to unlock new arm types for the characters. Each character by default comes with 3 unique arms. Through this minigame, you can unlock every arm type in the game for each character. This adds a whole new layer of depth, letting you mix and match arm types rather than limiting the characters to their specific arms. I'm really excited to see how the meta will increase as we discover crazy arm combinations for the characters. That's the biggest takeaway I got from playing ARMS. There is a surprising amount of strategy and depth for what is essentially a boxing game. Each character controls differently and has their own unique special abilities, which leads them all to be played drastically different from one another. There is a huge variety of arm types, making it so important which pairs you use to fight with. It's even dependent on which arm you equip it to. Perhaps you want to counter an opponent that has a heavy on their left with putting a heavy yourself on your right, so then you can connect those punches in the air. Or maybe they're equipping a lighter arm on the left and maybe you want to use a quicker medium arm to knock those punches out of the way and get a quick punch in to counter that arm as well. Or even there's characters with specific arms that do specific attributes, like Min Min for example. Her left arm can get an immediate charge with her dragon arm, so it makes it really important to which arm you put there instead of just choosing one at will. The designs of these characters are some of the strongest I've seen in a fighting game, and I happily welcome them to the Nintendo family. I wouldn't have minded a few extra modes to play, but the developers have already since promised a Splatoon model of free DLC updates of new characters, arms, stages, and more. I am content with the amount of content that this game currently offers, but I have to say, I was itching for a little bit more, and this DLC model will definitely satisfy that craving. In the end, I loved ARMS. I had a great time with it, and I could tell after the first few hours into the Testpunch that this was a game worth checking out. I really have fallen in love with all these characters, and I'm excited to experiment with them as the meta increases. ARMS offers the most unique approach I've ever seen in a fighting game, and it pulls it off with flying colors. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to give this video a big awesome like, and if you haven't already, subscribe for more on ARMS and other Nintendo Switch content. In the next few weeks, I plan to do character guides, live streams where we play together, and more, so I hope you check those out as well. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya!